Hello, my amazing tribe. I'm excited to connect with you through this video. Greetings, explorers of knowledge. Join us as we embark on a quest to understand Junkers W-33. The Junkers W-33 was a German single-engine low-wing monoplane transport aircraft that followed Junkers' standard practice, making extensive use of corrugated aluminium alloy over an aluminium alloy tube frame that was developed from the similar but slightly smaller Junkers Fahrenheit 13 and evolved into the similar W-34. One example, named Bremen, was the first aircraft to complete the much more difficult east-west non-stop heavier-than-air crossing of the Atlantic. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into design and development. Like all Junkers designs from the J-7 fighter onwards, it used a duraluminum aluminium alloy structure covered with Junkers' characteristic corrugated dural skin. While the Junkers W-33 was unusual when compared to the contemporary biplanes in use in the UK and the US, the monoplanes were a popular design choice in continental Europe during the period, and the Junkers designs were unusual only in their extensive use of closely corrugated metal skins. Unlike the skins on the contemporary Roebuck Roland, those on the Junkers aircraft were not load-bearing and it did not have a stressed skin structure. The Junkers W-33 was a direct evolution of the 1919 four-seat airliner, the Junkers Fahrenheit 13. The Fahrenheit 13 was similar to the W-33, but slightly smaller and had some detail differences. Considerable evolution occurred in the structure of the Fahrenheit 13, so that later models shared more details with the W-33. The wings have the same span as the late Fahrenheit, though the planform differed slightly, while the length was the same as the Fahrenheit Earth. A slightly different fuselage cross-section gave the W-33 a squarer cabin with a hunchbacked appearance compared to that of the Fahrenheit 13, and a door was provided on the port side to provide access to the freight compartment. Early examples of the W-33 had an open cockpit much like the Fahrenheit 13, although it lacked the structural member that divided the pilot and co-pilot, and the corresponding and very distinctive coamings. Some examples, such as the transatlantic machines, had an early enclosed cockpit. The Junkers upright inline water-cooled engine was also the same as used in the Fahrenheit Earth, a more powerful engine than used in many of the Fahrenheit 13 variants. The W-33 differed primarily from the W-34 in normally using an inline engine aside from the Redgo variant, which served as a prototype for the W-34, while the W-34 generally used various radial engines and had some minor detail improvements, such as a larger enclosed cockpit. As was common for the time, when a wheeled undercarriage was fitted, a conventional fixed undercarriage was used with a tail wheel. Early examples had a similar undercarriage to that used on the Fahrenheit 13, in which a hinged cross-axle connected the two main wheels, while later examples provided an independent three-legged structure for each wheel. The Junkers W letter may have denoted the type as a seaplane for Wasserflug's huge, but in practice Ws were equipped as either landplanes or seaplanes, as needed. As a floatplane, the W-33 was equipped with two main floats, braced to the fuselage with a forest of struts. The prototype W-33, registered D921, first flew as a seaplane from Leopoldhofen on the River Elbe near Dessau on 17 June 1926. Production began in 1927 and ran until 1934, and most of the 198 production machines were built at the Junkers works at Dessau, but a small number were assembled at Junkers' Swedish subsidiary AB Flygindustri at Limhamn near Malm, and at Philly, near Moscow in the USSR. Both of these plants had originally been built to avoid Allied post-war restrictions on aircraft manufacturing in Germany following World War I that had been considerably eased by the time the W-33 was flying. In 1934, a Junkers was used to test the Junkers Jumo 210 engine. It was flown with a 680th version on 5 July 1934. In this section, we'll be peeling back the layers of operational history to reveal its true essence. Soon after their first flights, the first two W-33 prototypes competed at the Deutschen Seeflugseeplan competition at Warnemünde in July 1926, with the first prototype W-33 competing as No and coming in second in the contest, while the second prototype, a W-ER, competed as No. Ws were used by many operators across the world in the late ERs and ERs as transports and mailplanes. Deutsche Lufthansa only had 4 that they used for mail from 1929. Others were flown as survey aircraft and crop sprayers. Later, despite their obsolescence, the Luftwaffe would use some as trainers alongside Ws. The Colombian Air Force used Junkers W-33, W-34 and the militarized W-34, the Kelvin 43, during the Colombia-Peru War. The Ethiopian Air Force operated a single W during the Second Italo-Abyssinian War. One Junkers W-AUG was used by the Swedish Air Force from 1933 to 1935 as an air ambulance under the designation Troop. This aircraft may have been assembled at Linham, as were 4 Ws exported to Australia. After World War II, this aircraft was used as a utility transport by the Swedish Air Force's Fahrenheit 2 guns squadron, and in June 1952, it participated in the search and rescue operation during the Catalina affair, in which 2 Soviet MiGs shot down a Swedish Douglas C-47 intelligence aircraft, and the search and rescue consolidated Catalina sent out after it. Of the 17 Ws assembled in Russia at Philly from imported parts, at least 9 appeared on that country's civil register. In Russian service, they were given the designation PS-3 as the 3rd Passatsersky Samolyot passenger aircraft or airliner, while at least 17 Russian examples were built by GVF workshops with numerous improvements with the designation PS-4. As we enter this new chapter, let's navigate the complexities of flight records and unravel its multifaceted nature. The Junkers W-33 set numerous records, and one example, named the Bremen, made the first east-to-west crossing of the Atlantic by airplane. The North Atlantic had previously been crossed by the U.S. Navy Curtiss NC-4 flying boat, with numerous stops, and by Alcock and Brown in 1919 in a Vickers-Viney non-stop, and by others, but all of these heavier-than-air aircraft flew the easier west-to-east route, which had the prevailing winds helping them along with a tailwind. On April 1928, the W-33D 1167 Bremen was flown by Bond Hunefeld and Fitzmaurice from Baldonnel Island near Dublin into the prevailing winds to Greenlee Island, off the coast of Quebec in the St. Lawrence River, in 37 hours. Strong winds took them north of their intended destination, which was to have been New York, and they put down near the first settlement they found, but caused minor damage to the aircraft that required some time to repair before they continued. Their aircraft is now on display at Bremen Airport in Germany. The Bremen was one of 2 aircraft making the attempt, however the Europa never made it out of Germany. A W-33 set Class Celsius world records for an endurance flight of 52 hours, 22 minutes, and for covering a distance of during a single flight around Dessau between 3 and 5 August 1927, piloted by Johann Ristix and Edzard. Earlier Fritz Luce and W. Enschenbel had set another Class Celsius record for duration and distance, while carrying a load. For that flight they remained aloft for 22 hours 11 minutes and travelled. At about the same time, the W-33 set a similar pair of records in Class Seaplanes. A substantially modified W-33 fitted with a radial engine and so sometimes erroneously referred to as a W-34, flown by Willy Neuenhofen, set an altitude record of on 26 May 1929. The first Swedish assembled W-33 was completed in May 1930 and delivered 2 months later to Japan, with Ichiri Boba flying under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Kiyoshi Honma and with Tomoyoshi as the radio operator. JBFUB, named 3rd Hockey Japan US, departed Sabishiro Beach near Misawa on 24 September 1932 in an attempt to cross the Pacific Ocean to the US, but they disappeared en route. Their last radio transmission indicated that they were passing to the south of Itorofu Island. Neither wreckage nor survivors were ever found, despite an extensive search. See also List of missing aircraft 1939. In this section, we'll be deep diving into accidents and incidents, unraveling its complexities and uncovering valuable insights. 15 May 1932 to 1925 Atlantis, flown by Hans Bertram and Adolf Klussmann, landed on the Kimberley coast of Western Australia while attempting to fly from Kupang to Darwin due to a navigational error. The crew were not rescued until June 1932. 29 October 1932 to 2017 Marmara of Lufthansa was on a freight flight from Croydon to Cologne when it crashed off the Kent coast. Get ready for a thought-provoking discussion as we delve into variance and its impact on our understanding. Junkers W33, BC, and F powered by a Junkers water-cooled inline engine. Junkers W33 and he powered by a Junkers water-cooled inline engine. Junkers W33 powered by a Siemens Sch-20 radial engine. Junkers W34, a 6-passenger development powered by a variety of radial engines. Junkers Kelvin 43, bombing and reconnaissance version built in Sweden, equipped for machine guns in the cabin, roof and floor. PS3, Soviet designation for German-built examples. PS4, Soviet designation for locally produced modification. Swedish Air Force designation. The time has come to unravel the secrets behind civil operators and gain a deeper understanding. Syndicator Condor Canadian Airways Eurasia Scatter 1 registered as C-33, sold to Colombian Air Force in Aduge Lufthansa. 1 on Civil Register Word, Slendaganet, 2 on Civil Register. 3 on Civil Register Deruluft Dobroyet operated 7 Saab Central Aviation Repair Base operated 10. With our curiosity piqued, let's embark on a dedicated exploration of military operators and its fascinating intricacies. Colombian Air Force operated 1 W-33 from 1932 to 1939, acquired from SCAT. Ethiopian Air Force operated 1 W from 1929 to Lakoff. Imperial Iranian Air Force operated 3 W from 1929 to a Mongolian People's Army Air Force operated 5 aircraft from a Swedish Air Force operated 1 W from 1933 to 1938 and 2 W from 1934 to a Soviet Air Force operated 25. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting specifications landplan and exploring its intricate connections to our topic. Specifications landplan. If you have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comment section.